Unforgiven commissioner, you know, the guy that makes it happen, fair and balanced, standing strong against the opposition that is rising among our ranks. A mutiny is not gonna be tolerated. How you doing? How was your Thursday night football? Interesting game. Bengals won, like I said, but it wasn't really a blowout game, huh? Anyhow, well, let's see what's going on this week. Uh, Thank you for reading my message on the homepage. Thank you for participating in the poll. I think the overwhelming majority sees O and 4 for these two lovers, the lovebirds, the Armenian and the Greek, at the bottom of the rankings. Let's see, will it come true or not? So today we're gonna discuss the rankings a little bit. Okay, it'll be a little longer, but I won't have another segment later on, so I'm gonna put everything in here. We got some next gen stats, numbers don't lie, and demystify some of the things that appear to be in a certain way, but if you plug the numbers into the ESPN models, they give you a different sense of what might happen in the next few weeks. 0-3, 3-0. You know, Beverly Hills all the way down to Antelope Valley. I don't want to say Lancaster. we know who is who, and there's the middle class, upper middle class, and lower middle class. First 3 weeks, things are starting to shape a little bit. I mean, we know a little bit about the teams. A lot of movement, injuries, changes in the lineups, but still, 0-3, 3-0. So I have to say this is the first time, that's some stats, in the short life of this league, but at least 4 years, right? Where there is two teams at the bottom with 0-3. First time. Yeah. Panatha occupies the bottom of the league for the last 2 years. But for GOAT, that's a first. And I'm sure it hurts. And I sympathize somewhat, because it's not a good feeling to start 0-3. Of course, Cook and Goats, Zafar, the head, the Afghani, no stranger to the top, and our rookie, the Ace of Spades, man, bravore, Adrea, Oliora. So let's see what's happening with the NFL matchups, with the fantasy football matchups. Everything's upside down. Crazy things are happening. You have to agree, right? It really makes you want to smoke. So it's the folly of the NFL right now. Looking at what top players should be doing and they're not doing it. Looking at the injuries. Folks that are playing through injuries, they're questionable, and then they're not questionable, or they're not questionable, and suddenly they are questionable, and then you find out that they were playing through injuries. It's pretty crazy out there. And some of the strongest divisions, of course, the Rams division, potentially one of the strongest divisions in the NFL today, this season. I mean, it just takes a little bit of a one wrong pass, right, to the wrong person. There's a lot of vulturing going on, right? I mean, Sulj vultures 2 touchdowns, right, sacks, where Lamb does not get one. Amari Cooper is nowhere, right, GOAT? I mean, those are crazy things on a high-scoring game, and Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb don't have a TD, but Sulj does. Very interesting. Don't get me started with Chase Edmonds and Conner, right? And James Conner. He gets 2 touchdowns, 2 end zone carries, 2. Other than that, nothing. So there's a lot of vulture. Robert Woods, where the hell is Robert Woods? I mean, the Rams, and I think the Falco was in the stadium, the Rams are throwing the ball everywhere besides Robert Woods. I don't know what's going on. I mean, Tyler Higbee has a 0-point game last week, or close to 0. And then he gets all of this attention last week. I don't know, it's this week. So it's like everything's upside down. And don't get me started with, top running backs. But it's the problem of, do you keep them or do you drop them? Do you love them or do you hate them? Are you loyal to them, right? So Rodgers, for me, 0 points, like 1 point. But then steadily, you got to stick with him, right? Alvin Kamara, same thing. Shaquan Barkley, not bad. Robinson, bye week, this week gave you 20. So, what are we doing with all those things? Do you stay loyal? Do you make moves? Do you trade? Do you expect to pick up value? Will things change in the future because somebody's returning? Like the Browns, right? The Browns is a mess. Same as the Cincinnati Bengals, right? You have Jamar Chase and you have Tyler Boyd. There's no T. Higgins. And suddenly, Umoza, what the heck is his name? Right? The tight end gets 2 TDs. Will that continue to happen? Will one of you run and pick him up? I don't know. Should you pick him up? The backfield of San Francisco. Crazy. That's the folly of the NFL. I've never seen such an uproar. McCaffrey injured again, and then I'll talk about and then what. So it's the folly of the NFL and the vulturing that is taking place, right? A lot of vulturing. Now, good ownership versus bad ownership has to do with making the right moves, looking at the bench, trying to figure out which player is going to score more points, but it's not always, that is not always the measurement. The measurement is good ownership means that you look at your team as a whole. Allen, the GOAT, used to say, forget the kicker. Forget the D. I don't. It all adds up. It does. Now, our matches haven't been that close, but they've been close enough where a kicker and a D can make a huge difference. So I like to say that good ownership means that you look at your team as a block and not as a position per position. Okay? And if you look at what's projected, it's for everyone and not just for your key players. That's just the commissioner giving you advice. All right, so let's go to next gen stats. I want to take my time. I mean, I'm making my videos for myself anyway. So I want to talk about numbers. I have some numbers here that are very interesting. Been doing some homework. Yeah. So I want to look at the active rosters. I want to look at what happened the last 3 weeks and give you some perspective. Now, the averages for the teams. Ace of Spades has an average, right? Average scoring through 3 weeks of 151. So you got to score around 148 to 152 to beat that person if they are on a regular day. If they blow up, you got to go 160. If they don't play well, you got to still score about 140. So keep that in mind by week. The Doctor has a 136. Look at the difference. It's like 15 points difference on the average. 136 is doable because you can swing between 121 to 135, right? So 136 is the average. And then you get the GOATs with 127, even lower. That's one of the lowest ones, right? And you know who has the lowest average. But that doesn't mean anything. And then you get to Cooking Goats so far, 175. That is his average through 3 weeks. That is a record for the Unforgiven Fantasy Football League. 175 average points in the first 3 weeks. That means you got to play this person and score no less than 150 if you want to win. And that's just the active roster. And even if he decides to switch it up in the bench, you're in no better position. Think about these numbers. Scary, scary, scarier than Ace of Spades. Average of scoring points for. Scary. Then you get Falco with the 126, 1 point less than the GOAT. Sorry, VPs. Real VPs and fake VPs, 1 point less. So right now you can see that Doctor, Falco, the GOAT, they're opponents that you can beat. They're beatable so far. So, yes. So Falco, Sax in the City and Falco have the same, 126. One less than Allen, who has 127. And then we go to the bye week, which is 118. 118. Bye. 118. And yours truly, the commissioner, with 122. So at the bottom is me, Banatha, well, aka bye week. And of course, for a tie, we have Falco and Sax. So we're beatable, but if we play in each other, it will be close games, right? Does that make sense? But if you're playing the monsters, the Beverly Hills ones, you gotta go above and beyond. So it's all about the strength of the schedule. It's all about who are you playing next. And if you can beat the ones that are closer to your average and lose to the ones that are doing better, ceteris paribus, everything else held equal, then you should make the top 4. It's a simple mathematical equation. So if you want to give up the game against Zafar, then do so. But then plan to play Falco, to play the Commissioner, to play Sax in the City, the Doctor. Plan great so you can have this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points difference because the averages are so close. Now, the averages don't say much. Through the 3 weeks, the only team that has been steadily improving its scoring more points per week is the Commissioner. 105, 119, 143. Everybody else fluctuates. The GOAT is the only team that scored the same amount of points on week 2 and week 3, which is exactly 126, which gives them the 127 average, right? Now, of course, Ace of Spades and, Cooking Goats, 160, 152, 141 for Ace of Spades, and the Goats were, not the Goats, Cooking Goats, 173, 202, and 151. And if 151 is the lowest, then we all have problems. So that's what the next gen stats are giving you a picture. I keep scoring more, raising my average to actually be able to beat the teams that are not on the top 2 tier. That is what you should be doing as well. You should stack yourselves up, see how your schedule is, look at the bye week, have your replacement player ready to stay close to that average points per week. That's the Commissioner advice. The only teams with improved score, though, I'm the only one that keep improving on all 3 weeks, are Sax in the City, the bye week, believe it or not, and of course the Commissioner, which means from week 2 to week 3 there was an increase in scoring. Okay, which is, it's a sign that the team is doing better. Well, if you're playing Zafar, yeah, of course, you're not going to win, but you're doing better, which means you have the opportunity to enter the top 4 if you keep doing that. So you're doing something right, Sax in the City and Panatha. Well, Panatha, I don't know, but Sax in the City for sure. Let's see. Goat and Panatha are the only 2 teams with scoring totals less than 130. Everybody else has scored at least once over 130. Panatha and the Goat, the way they hug each other and they love each other, they have not scored over 130. Another record for the league. All 3 weeks, all the teams over 100 points, triple digits. It has never happened before. Very interesting. Now, of course, Cooking Goats, right? Zafar, the head, the formerly known artist as the head, is the highest scoring average in the first 3 weeks in the history of the league. The previous record is 25 points less, about 150. Now he stands on an average of 175 points. Okay, so one last stat on this is like no team that started 0-4 has ever made the playoffs. And no team that started 4-0 or something similar has ever not been in the playoffs. Now, if I'm looking at the bench, right, it's 13 minutes. It's up to you if you want to watch it. I'll still do it. I took the strength of the bench as well, and it tells a story. Remember the averages that I just told you about each one of you? Well, right now I'm looking here. The highest average on the bench is Sax in the City. And if she keeps improving the average, it means it has a lot of depth to actually create a steady average scoring that will stay like that because the bench is strong. Of course, the strongest performance on the bench on a single week goes to Cooking Goats, right? With 126 points, ridiculous. So the averages of your benches, right? Ace of Spades 84, Commissioner 89, Doctor 79, Goats 89, Cook and the Goats 91, all right, the second best. Falco 83, Sax 95, the best average on the bench, which can tell a story of you're a horrible owner because you don't put the right players up. But it depends on what kind of players you have on the bench, but it also tells a story that you have enough material to stay relevant even through the bye weeks. So when is your bye? See who you're playing. You got to stay close to that average Sax, which for you is about a 126, and raise it 130, 135, so you can beat everybody else around that neighborhood. And the bye week, the average on the bench, you ready, guys? 59. I have nothing else to say. Let's go to waiver wire notables. Yeah, brr. So a lot of movement. A lot of movement since the waiver opened on Thursday early morning around midnight, well past midnight from Wednesday, early morning hours of Thursday. Doctor is going Chaba Doctor Chaba, a move that should have been done by Ace of Spades. This is the handcuff to Christian McCaffrey. So Doctor, I'm seeing you traded me for running backs. You picked up a running back. A little Slim Shady stuff. Little Slim Shady right there. But okay, you go Chaba, Doctor. I'll see you there. Ace. Ace is wondering about Andreas. Listen to me. Ace is wondering about the car gate. Calls me up really early on Thursday. How come? How come? How come? Angelo took car. I had him on my claim. Well, because Angelo had the highest, right, ranking on the waiver wire. The car gate, the scandal. So the car now belongs to Angelo, and Ace missed a chance for his quarterback that he would use for the bye week. A lot of good quarterbacks out there, Ace. Sachs is looking for love in Texas, a tight end in Texas. And that will be Sulj. Picked up Sulj right after what happened with with the Cowboys and his 2 touchdowns. And I see the love of the GOAT and Saxon the City. They're all going Cowboy. Texas Chainsaw Massacre when you guys face each other. It will be like one game for all your players. And of course, she goes feline with the Bengals D, which didn't do much. Although I expected the D to do a lot more than that. It didn't work out for you that well, Cordero. Goats, get a new anus. Mac Manus. Mac Anus? Mac Dreamy Anus? So he's going back to his roots. The Broncos, I respect the move, Goat. Much love. McManus has a anus, donkey anus leg. I think he scored 16 points last week. I dropped him. So you're picking up my leftovers, literally. And then you go pick up Melvin Gordon. Again, Bronco. Again, my leftover. If it helps you, you have to thank me. Okay, you picked up the 2 Broncos that I dropped. I think you like the rear. My rear. Falco got a strong Viking kick, right? In the ass with Joseph. Picked up the kicker of the Vikings and practiced Asian discrimination by dropping Jang Ho Ko Ku. You are discriminating against Asians, sir. And dropped his whole freaking bench, okay? Like a Marine dropping down, taking 10. He dropped everything. He just dropped the whole 9 yards. A lot of movement, which means Falco is strategizing, okay? 7th round. Remember, the 7th round is the most important round. And of course, the bye week said bye to some good flex players. Antonio Brown? Really? You dropped Antonio Brown? And Tony Pollard? Tony Pollard ranks in the top 5 for all running backs in yards. Anyway, none of my business. And of course, is looking for some love in Las Vegas, picking up Mr. Henry Ruggs III. You're looking for a rug in Las Vegas? Bye-bye. All right. Funny thing about the waiver wire, and I'll finish with that, it's my longest report ever, is that the one team that has only one transaction in the waiver wire in the first 3 weeks is Cook and Goats. Just replacing Cook with Madison. That tells you a story. So only one transaction, and a bench of an average of 91, and an active roster of an average of 175. Numbers don't lie. You like it or not, I don't play favorites. I do my homework. I know what I'm talking about. And my stats are not, coming from pain and anguish, Goat. They come from the truth. These are things that must be calculated. Thank you for, if you watch this in your last 20 minutes, I appreciate you. We have an exciting week coming up. I'm going to do a recap of all 4 matchups and give you my predictions for next week. Commissioner out for now.